dude, you got the glasses on. You look good, man.
Yeah, dude, exactly.
Good.
I have to go back into to work tomorrow. I've been working from home for the last couple weeks, so I was able to let things grow out, and now I have to shave it all off. So I'm pretty sad about it. But we did a partial shave today. Anyway, it is podcasting time. Mike, you got an intro for us by any chance?
Well, let me think. I'm excited
right
about
on the hot
Rogon
seat.
on, so it's very fun.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's podcasting time!
All right. So that was a different note than we usually start on, but we got to introduce our special guest today. MUME Talk 11, we've got Rogon joining it with us today, which is I never thought Rogon was going to come on. He's been teasing this for weeks, but today he finally was like, you know what? All right, fine. So Rogon, welcome to the cast.
We're building up for disappointment here already.
He's just gonna write a scathing review afterwards. Absolutely. So first, Swedish openings, because we got our first Euro on the podcast. So Rogon, hur är läget?
Ja, det är bra. Hur är det själv?
I'm gonna assume you said I look great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Totally. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Rogon. And without further ado, I think we're gonna jump right into it. All right. So first on the docket, we've got the new first Darky Subrace changes for trolls. So Mike, you want to read those off?
I do. Somewhat surprisingly, they did all 3 troll races at once. But I think it's sort of like a partial update. But okay, here we go. Troll players, baby. Hill trolls deal extra damage to stunned opponents when wielding a concussion weapon. And of course, as has been clarified, concussion here means weapons that crush, not necessarily, or not just weapons that use a concussion skill. So like a Warmatic, which is a smiting weapon, also does a crush or concussion action. So does in fact count. So hill trolls, extra damage to stunned opponents. Mountain trolls, Mountain trolls is kind of a funny one, honestly. Mountain trolls says highly efficient with battle rams, moving them with increased speed and reduced move cost. There's a note here at the bottom that says, yeah, we know we didn't add much for mountain trolls. We'll revisit this later. I honestly don't understand this one at all because you need like several trolls to move the battering ram. So I don't know how like the mountain trolls move fast, but the other trolls wouldn't. I don't know. But then the third one, which I think is the one people are most excited about, is cave trolls have increased hit point regeneration and even further increased hit point regeneration in cave or tunnel terrain. So there you go. Subrace features for trolls.
Yeah, I feel like the hill troll and the cave troll one are pretty huge. I've seen a ton of hill trolls made over the last like day or two. I haven't seen a lot of mountain trolls, but
yeah, because it takes several trolls to move the battering ram, right?
Yeah, it takes. Like
first, I want to say that this was an emergency solution. We
gotta give him something.
We'd rather.
So this is
I'm intrigued about what kind of emergency, but okay.
Yeah, but we wanted to keep the momentum going. You know, have something every Friday.
Oh, which is perfect.
We didn't have any troll subrace completed.
Gotcha.
So we did a bit of each, and the mountain trolls got the short end of the stick.
So this is a little at the end of the last second. Gotcha.
But so hey, on the stunned, so they deal extra damage on stunned. Is stunned just strictly bash, or like when you use the blam?
That's a great question, and you should test it.
Yeah, I think Zablam is just sitting on the ground, not stunned, but I don't know about that.
But you're stunned if you're basically in a delay that you don't control.
So I think that would technically...
Oh, rescue delay! Is that rescue delay? Oh, that's interesting.
Also hold.
Maybe.
Hold might also be part of that.
Oh.
Which, I mean, that's like 1 second. But if you're doing one hit in a rescue... or not in a rescue, in like a hold. Let's say you quick hold someone.
Now.
If you quick hold someone and someone hits in that like 0.5 seconds, that hold works. Maybe it's enough damage. Who knows? Teleport delay. That's a good point. Oh my god.
Teleport delay.
I'm not sure, honestly.
You didn't even look at the
there's
numbers.
various special codes have their own solutions, and
Right.
I don't know if everything counts, but bashing does for sure.
Yeah. Now I wonder, like delayed doors. I wonder.
No, but
No.
that's not a stun. That's a choice. Same with
Sure.
if you're casting a spell, for example.
Okay.
Or
But so
picking a lock.
definitely bash. I wonder about rescue delay. We'll have to check rescue delay.
I think it must be, dude. It must be 100%.
I imagine rescue. I think teleport's a more interesting one to test because that's. I could see that being an interesting edge case.
Yeah. Good catch, news though. By the way, good catch. And then I don't know. Has anyone in the chat been playing Cave Troll or Hill Troll and been able to kind of tell us what?
Yeah. Has
difference you've
anyone
seen?
tested the hit point? Like done the math on the hit point regeneration?
When you
yet?
topple from a missed bash? I don't think that's delay. I don't think that's a delay. I think you get like panic or you some stats drop or something, but I don't think it's a delay.
Yeah.
But now I want to get 6 mountain trolls and carry the ram around. I don't even want to raid. I'm just gonna carry the ram around, just like drop at Rivendell or something.
I think the math on that is if there's one mountain troll, there's a partial increase in speed.
Oh, for the whole group.
Yeah, there's supposed to be some math behind it, but yeah, you have the wrong guess there. You should have invited Jahara.
So
Yeah. But overall, hang on, let's step back a little. Overall, the Subrace changes are fantastic. The momentum, just like you said, the momentum every Friday is exciting. It's really fun. Where did this enthusiasm for the Subrace changes come from? Like a couple months ago, you guys were like, let's just do this. Like what tell us about it.
Yeah, so if we start from the beginning, I think you can go on Elven Rooms and find Maedros. I don't know if I pronounced that right.
Yeah.
Back from 2002, maybe?
Okay.
so you're working on this 20 years.
Okay, yeah.
So might be 2005, I don't know. But he made a poster and asked players for suggestions on sub-races. And if you read my reply back then, or maybe it was a different thread, but about the same time, some of the ideas we have now implemented are from back then. At least
So 17-year, kind of a 17-year.
Yeah,
process,
20
basically.
years or whatever. I know some of the Rohir stuff is on there.
And his number one idea was battering rams, or was that just
Yeah.
Yeah, that and the riding stuff. Yeah, but it never went anywhere. And something like 5-6 years ago, I made a post on the management board, only Valab and above can access, and stated that I want to do sub-races. It's about time to do something, and I made some keywords with a lot of ideas and stuff like that.
Oh, so you were basically the one who really started driving this project then.
Well, maybe, but it never went anywhere back then either. It wasn't until maybe a year now, less than a year ago, 8-9 months that we picked it up again.
Got it.
And I don't remember who brought it up. It might have been Jahara. He has done most of the coding.
Yeah. It's awesome, man. I mean, everybody loves it. I mean, I know there's a couple of borderline psychotic people who will rage about certain details, but I think the player base loves it. It's some cool excitement, some cool momentum.
I've been around way too long to be upset by complaints, honestly.
What? People don't complain in MUME. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic because you're differentiating. Because before you pick you're like, okay, I'm gonna create an elf, and it doesn't really matter what type of elf. Like now you can actually be like, okay, well, I'm gonna wield bows, so maybe I'll make a Sylvan, or I'll be a leader, so maybe I'll make a Sindar.
Yeah.
It's great.
Rogan, were you just talking about Dwar, or is that no? That's someone else. Never mind. That's someone else.
Dior, I think.
Dior. Okay, Dior.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
What did you say?
I always used to say deer.
Deer.
I always used because I mean, if we're talking about this, wasn't it D? Is it just like DEOR?
DEOR.
Yeah. I always said deer.
So we got
over here we say Deor. I've heard your names on some things. You call Sirdan Kurdan?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
that's what Nick says.
What
That's
did
what
that come from?
It's Kierdun. Yeah,
No.
I mean that's not
No.
me. That's Tolkien says Kierdun.
I'm going to put that on no idea.
like 4 things get added to the no idea list today. Oh, great.
Yeah. But it's the thing that I really appreciate about the Subrace is it brings a lot of personality to like with the Rohirrim. You're like, I got to make this guy wield I got to make this guy wield spears. Like you feel it brings like kind of an RP element into your kind of the definition and kind of creation of your character, instead of them being just like blank canvases. You feel more of an RP element. So I think it's well done.
Yeah,
but it's also at the cost of maybe typecasting Subraces. These guys are better thieves. If you're going to make a warrior, you should make and so on.
Yeah,
but then we've already had that. I mean, like if you tried to make a sneaking dwarf in the past, like forget about it.
It's more or less impossible to do anything without making something better and something not as good.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
We try to avoid it when we can, but it will happen anyway.
So this is my first controversial question of the day. So one thing, I mean, again, I think you guys do a fantastic job of the creativity and the innovation and thinking through it. But one thing that's interesting to me is you guys code, you guys design, build, test privately, launch. And then there's really not much of a feedback or kind of experimentation window, right? Like you guys, it's like once it's launched, it's done, baby. Apart from like some obscure like bugs or like pretty extreme cases, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys ever consider like trying ideas like okay, we're gonna introduce a new something XYZ, some new idea, some new feature for a month and see how it goes and get feedback on it? Like, do you guys ever consider that, or it's pretty strictly like we make the decisions offline and that's
we don't want any input really. No, but seriously, we have test MUMEs where we can test stuff.
But it's kind of invite only, right?
Yeah, it is. And for the Subraces, we have a Discord as well, and there's maybe 8 or 9 people on there.
Okay.
But it's been a long time since we had a public test MUME for anything. I think it was back with Thief changes.
A change that went over very well.
We all know that clearly that really helped.
Yeah, with Elia and that stuff. Yeah, that was at least 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
There was one more recently, a few months ago, when they changed. They were adding character out-of-band data through the XML mode, and they were transferring, like sending information about characters in the room and stuff like that. And so they did set up a test MUME for like 5-6 days or whatever for people to test their clients. But yeah, apart from that, I think the last one probably was Scout changes or somewhere around there.
I don't see why it's controversial at all. But I mean, yeah.
But when you guys launch a change, the intent is that change is permanent.
No.
Really?
Not in my opinion. We should be open to changing it, to balancing it, and tweaking it. We haven't done that a lot, but I'm definitely open to it.
Wow, see, that's amazing, because I think most people were under the impression, like Mike was saying, that usually when something is implemented into the game, it's kind of like, well,
this is it. It's done. This is it. It's here for.
But that's great to hear. Yeah. So you're more into the like, okay, well, let's get it out there and then start tweaking it, kind of more mentality.
Yeah. So whatever you like about Subrace changes, don't expect it to last.
Oh.
Oh no! It's that kind of tweak. It's down a negative tweak.
Just nerf everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good and popular stuff is going away. We're keeping the rest.
I do. You know what? I honestly think. If you guys did row here later, I don't think you would have given them the 25% bonus on ride. I think it would have been 10. I noticed like that is just such an insane buff. because I mean my row here has like 140% ride, and I'm not even trying. So I honestly think if you guys did row here later on in kind of the sequence, I think it would have been 10% instead of 25% ride. But I'm very happy. I love my row here. I'm very happy with
So also just to clear something up for the audience, even though these are called subrace changes, these are going to include races without subraces, right? So like Tarknob orcs and Black Numenorians, right? Or is that not the case?
You know what? You should log on every Friday and see if there's no news.
Oh no! Oh no! Lost the camera there for a second. Yeah. So wait and see. Got it. Checks. I'm assuming that's a yes. I'm hoping that's a yes, but okay.
What kind of feedback? Like, do you really appreciate? Like, what's the best way? What's the best? You know, I'm like you said, complaints. You don't care, and I honestly. Go ahead.
I read everything. I read threads on Elven Rooms.
It gives you strength.
It's kind of a masochistic.
I read them, and I read the boards in MUME. Except idea board, of course. That's
it's not that board. Not that board.
That's a garbage bin.
But are you? I mean, so one thing, if you pay attention, like as far as I can tell, ER is super dominated by like a relatively small community of like PK addicts. It's like the same 15 people just going nuts in there every day. But one really cool thing that the podcast has shown me, at least, and I don't know if you guys feel like, Peter and Nick, you guys feel this way, is that the podcast, the response we've had and the engagement we've had shows there's like a huge population of people who are either like more just casual in general, or they're casual because they don't have much time to play, or they've never really just advanced that far. Like they've, never had a hero or a legend, or they just want PvE or whatever. But there's so many kind of demographics and players and play styles beyond just sort of what you see in the Elven Runes type thing. When you're architecting and designing change, are you thinking like, this is for the PK or this is for the PvE, or how do you balance all the different kind of players and play styles and what people want? Like how do you think about that?
That's a way too complicated of a question. I can't really give you a straight answer. We try to find ideas that we think are fun, that they add something, and we can get them accepted from everyone in management. And when it comes to where feedback and such comes from, I mean, we have our Discord, as I said, and people post stuff there. Even if I'm not, there's an official MUME Discord somewhere, I think, and I'm not on it, but other people are, and they paste stuff from there in our Discord and so on. So we share feedback with each other as well.
So basically, it's whatever. It doesn't really matter what aspect of the game it's in. For the most part, if an idea comes by and it's like, oh, that looks like it would be fun and interesting, that's what you guys pursue, kind of.
Yeah, sort of.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that's so recently we've been focusing a lot on obviously subrace changes, which are more balance style changes, which is awesome because that's not an area that we've had a lot of growth in the past. One thing I think a lot of people are really interested in is kind of the direction that you guys are right now taking the game in terms of game design for like new places that are opening up. So the two most recent areas that opened up were Emon and DG, and I would say that they are vastly different in like just their design philosophies, which is interesting because I think you were pretty much the supervisor for both of those, correct?
Yes, so, and the Tower Hills as well.
Well, that one's definitely very different. Emon and Tower Hills, there's, but so, and I think most people would agree that Emon and DG, even though they're both evil areas, are just vastly different in how they feel and how they work. So what was the mentality that ended up creating that difference between the zones? Was that just like, okay, well, we want them to feel these certain ways, or was it like you took some lessons from Emon and you applied them to DG, or what was how did that happen?
First of all, I want to say that Dol Guldur is not open.
Okay, gotcha.
What we have in game is the environment around the hill. We don't have the hill. We don't have the hill. We don't have
Not
the
the actual
stronghold
fortress.
on top. Not Sauron's fortress up there. The old elven city.
And when is that opening?
Yeah, I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah. Is that next Friday? Is that next Friday? Or yeah.
Probably not, but yeah. So building. There's no way to make that short. But I started my first building. My first full zone was in Old Forest Road. The zone with Virgil, the orc, the Tarknarb orc in there. And that area with all those, there's tons of random spiders in an area.
Like the north and south sections of the road you're talking about?
Yeah, the spiders are on the north, and Virgil is also on the north side. And on the south side is an area with a one-way in, and you have
The
to travel.
Tangle.
The Tangle. Yeah, that place. That was my zone, and that was with Force as supervisor. And that's where I earned my way from Maya Cartographer to Bright back in 2008, I think. And then I quit MUME for 5 years.
As you do.
Yeah, you take a few breaks here and there. So I took a
short break.
5-year break.
Yeah.
I remember
then
you
I came back
around when Timadius left, and then you came back around the same time, if I remember right.
Yeah, I came back before he left. But I came back mostly because, the Old Forest Road had sort of died, stalled. Force had quit, and I had quit, and the other builders had quit. But it was mostly done anyway, and Timodeus and Ante picked it up. And he started asking me questions about it, and so I got a bit involved, and then I started. I thought we needed a better starting place for new players, and I took that idea to Timodeus, and he gave me a bunch of zones to build the Tower Hills. A mistake, I think now, the place we chose. Way too much hills. We should have done somewhere with
from a terrain standpoint? From a terrain.
We looked at the map and said, well, where is a good place? Yeah. We don't want a PK place. It can't be in the east of the Shire, so we have to go west. But we want to do it with humans, so it can't be too close to the Grey Havens or Blue Mountains. And that's where we landed.
Why did you guys want to do it with humans? Just curious, like from a.
Because everyone starts there, and the humans are kind of neutral.
Oh, okay.
Building a ton of one for dwarves and one for elves, they were doing.
Oh, I got it. Oh, you didn't want dwarves to start in an elven town, kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah. So we try to be neutral on that. That's. So I started that. I found builders and so on, and then. I don't know exactly how it happened, but we had opened the Old Forest Road. Timodeus and Ante had opened it. But there was some areas to the east that wasn't finished in time. And there was one active builder there, Orlanth. Orlanth, the Finnish guy, Perkele.
Love that guy.
I know he's listening. Yeah, so anyway, me and Ante, I guess, looked at it and said, we can finish this. And we also picked up the area around Grey Havens, with the tomb and that stuff.
Yeah, the south.
To the south.
Yeah, the new Harlan, the Harlan zone. Yeah.
Yeah, there was an active builder there as well, and the supervisor was kind of inactive. And so we picked that up too. And when looking at Emmen, when we did the Old Forest Road with the Force and me and Funkel, if anyone remember him.
Yeah, Funkel.
We made a map for a much larger area, basically getting through all of the Mirkwood. So we looked at that map and thought that, yeah, this zone that's still ongoing by Orlanth, we could expand that and do a bunch of more zones and reach halfway through the mountains of Mirkwood.
So Emon, the extent of Emon now is only halfway through.
Yeah, somewhere around
Damn,
there. I
wow.
can't really give you.
So like, you got like 10 more zones to go.
No, but the mountains isn't that large part of it.
Okay.
The mountains are more on the east side than in the middle. And what you call Emon isn't all in the mountains. It's halfway in the forest.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
But anyway, so I picked up that as well, and I had 2 projects ongoing with something like 15 zones in total, and it was way too much.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't keep them both flowing, so Tower Hills kind of stalled because of that.
What keeps it going? Like what is it that a really strong supervisor and architect like you does that keeps the momentum up?
Activity, basically. Talk to the builders. If a builder is too slow, try to push them on. If they don't, replace them and all that. Yeah, lots of reviewing and basically being active.
Is this reviewing that you do or facilitating reviews from other management folks or?
Yeah, so anyway, let me finish the Emon thing first, so we're done with that. So Emon delayed the Tower Hills with at least a year.
Wow.
And at least maybe even longer. I started Tower Hills before Emon, and Emon opened way earlier.
Mm.
And Emon suffered from extreme over-design. We did way too much there. Way too many little things that players don't really care about. Way too difficult areas to navigate on. It's a bit like, oh, I'm a new builder. I want to do the most badass area that everyone will get lost in. These super tough mobs and these little details that no one will ever notice, and so on and so on.
I can't disagree with that.
When builders want to do that, and most builders do, it's up to the supervisors to say, no, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. Just say no to a lot of stuff. Otherwise, you'll never get done.
Mm-hmm.
Emon over-designed.
Gotcha. Well, so...
Yeah, no, there was a
ahead.
question I was supposed to answer.
Oh, I was going to say, so...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, so how did the lessons that you learn from Emon impact what we call DG now?
That wasn't the question.
That was it.
Oh no, the question was just like when you talk about reviews, like is it you doing the reviews or do you need to? Because I always hear the rumors that like higher ups in the game are very very slow to respond. And you know, we all know the joke of the man-we time unit or whatever. Just curious, like, are you able to review and push through these zones a lot on yourself, or do you guys end up blocked for months on other folks' input? Or
no, we're not blocked. Basically, you have the builders, one for each zone. And then you're supposed to have a supervisor who's in charge of that. And that's usually either a Maya Shaper. That's usually the task that gets you from Shaper to Vala, that you supervise an area, if you're a builder. And so you have one, either Vala or Maya Shaper, who's supposed to be the one in contact with the builders. And then you have another supervisor above that. Is basically supposed to review the whole area after it's all done. So you supposedly have 2 reviewers, and historically that's been the final reviewer is supposed to be has historically been the Arata of zones. Timotheus most lately. Now we don't have one at all with that title, but I'm the builder Arata, so sort of falls to me.
So kind of to go along with what Mike was asking, so is most of the holdup on the building side or on the reviewing side? Like where the slow parts?
The building side.
The building side? Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
okay, interesting. Because I think a lot of sort of like casual folks, and I'm probably in this category myself. You kind of like what you've heard historically is that the decisions and reviews take like years or decades, and so people just quit. But it sounds like actually now the opposite is true now. Like you guys, it's really just like it's just like bandwidth. It's like effort constrained. Like you guys are
Yeah,
not
but
blocked.
no, I wouldn't say once an area is finished, it's not the reviews that take a lot of time. The problem is you involve 6 different people in the project, builders. They're going to build one zone each. And one guy is really fast and does it in a couple of months. But someone else is slow and they take long breaks and they eventually they disappear and you give them time and then you replace them and the circle might repeat itself and so on. So the building side is what takes the most time.
Got it.
Also, I'm assuming it's even more difficult because if the event, like you said, happens where, you know, a builder loses interest and leaves halfway through, which, you know, it's volunteer work. It happens all the time.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Then you've got to add a new builder in there who has no clue what's going on with the old zone, and they almost kind of have to start from scratch, right?
I mean, that depends on the stage they're in. If you're lucky, the old builder has done a lot of good room desks because that's the main problem. That's the main holdup.
Room desks?
Mostly. Yeah, room desks.
That's what's holding us up? Room descriptions? Yeah. Oh, great.
Not definitely not the owner, but
yeah.
I wouldn't say it's reviews, at least.
Okay, got it. So Nazgum kind of brings up a point in the chat, though, that he says that Nazgum, he says that Nazgum's really cool. No, he says that Emin is really cool. A big problem is just that there's no loot there. So what was the philosophy in not putting any loot in Emin?
Yeah, I don't know.
There's actually there are some loot there that's pretty good for. You have the locate gem, which is amazing if you're a portaler or even like as a BN, and you have the Felhide belt and you have the wristband. So I mean, there is some.
You also have a pendant in there or an amulet.
Oh yeah,
the Lambet amulet. But all of those are really low load percentages. Like getting a locate gem, you have to go through all the what are those called? The vials.
The captains. And it
the
still
vial
might not
fetishes. And
Fetishes, yeah.
It's like what, a 5% load rate kind of a thing.
I think there's 2 gems on the fetishes.
Oh, are there?
Aren't there? There's the locate. Okay.
I mean, well, it loads a random gem, but I mean, the locate gem. I mean, all the gems. Usually, it's just like an amethyst or something. It's locate gems are really sort of rare, or an onyx. Yeah, I mean, it's a really rare load. So I mean,
Yeah. It doesn't have a lot of super mobs either. This is a scarf fed beast basically.
But so I'm curious, Rogon, why? Like, I mapped the shit out of Emin myself and really enjoyed it. But it's sad that like I enjoyed discovering it so much, but I just never ever go back for the reasons we're talking about. So I'm just curious, why not go back and change? Like, why not make changes? Like, because there's like that central swamp kind of in the very middle, like the 3x3 with the randoms and always like I'm just curious. I mean, I'm not like why not go back and increase loot or change some of the over engineering, the over design, like you say? Like, why not revisit it? Like, why not go back? Just because there's so much amazing effort went into it, which I really appreciate. So I'm curious, why not go back and tweak it a bit?
I'm not saying we won't go back. We go back and rebuild areas sometimes.
Okay.
But I mean, you might think that spend a few days there and you're done, but it's never that fast. And we have other areas and things we want to do. We're doing some rebuilds right now of other areas. And we might go back. And I mean, I know Emin isn't drawing a lot of attention. We have frequentation maps of where people go. There's a ton of people going to the Dol Guldur environments, and not a lot of people to Emin. So we're aware. Yeah. But also, if you look at the long term, Emmen is, Dol Guldur is the end of that
dead
area,
end.
so to speak. We're unlikely to continue building east or south from there. But Emmen is it's a road to Lonely Mountain eventually, maybe, if we build that. Hopefully we do.
Maybe.
Yeah, but until it's done, it's not done.
Yeah. Absolutely. So
down the road, if you want to go and kill Smog and go to Long Lake and all that stuff, you're going to have to go through those zones, probably.
And you think that'll help boost the frequentation a bit?
Yeah, of course it will. Absolutely. If people want to go there, if we make the areas beyond good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, gotcha.
There's a lot of areas that are not that interesting. Brush, for example. There's like 3 different XP mobs in there. There's a weed and the bush and the brushman. And there's 1 tower with a not that great belt. But there's tons of people in there visiting, going through.
It also
it all depends.
That might also go back to your point though. Like Brush is, it's not very interesting, but it's very straightforward. Like you walk around, you find some bushes, you kill them, as opposed to getting your ass handed to you by mountains and all that crap that's happening in Emmen. But what would you say? So we've talked about some of the drawbacks of Emmen. What would you say was the secret sauce that made Dol Guldur so great? Because that's a huge zone that everyone goes to.
Everybody loves it. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Well, everything, I think. There's better loot, there's a better designed area, and it's more interesting overall. It has quests. Yeah.
Gotcha. So just overall.
It's more interesting.
Yeah.
I think in every aspect.
I almost feel the loot in DG is too good almost. Right? The Alpike is an amazing spear,
We'll look into that.
Well, I'm sure that'll get taken care of. Yeah.
We'll credit you for the ideas.
Thanks to player Terran, Alpike is now loading at 2% load rate.
Nerfed, yeah.
That's great. So one of the final questions here about some zones. So we've talked in the past about Rohan. What are your thoughts on Rohan?
I try not to think about it.
But hold on here. Here's kind of a higher level question. From the work from Tower Hills, and Emmen sounds like you feel it was a little bit too much of this. But for DG, it's clear that the current kind of style, the current approach you guys have is a much higher diversity and complexity per zone. So if you compare to like old, the zones that were built 15, 20, 25 years ago, back in the day, you'd have a lot of zones, empty zones, like a couple mobs, a couple hidden doors, a couple, maybe, a cave here or there. But I'm thinking of like Greenway, Road to Fornost, a lot of that, right? But so there's this trade-off between now you guys build a bunch of amazing stuff in a relatively small area, whereas back in the day, it was lower density but covered much more ground. So you build out much more of Middle Earth. Is that intentional? Like, are you guys very intentionally focused on more shit per zone now, or do you ever think things will go back to just like covering a lot? Knocking out 6 or 10 zones to get to Lake Town or something, or knocking out 10 zones to get to through Rohan or anything? Or you guys are going to stick with a smaller but more rich zones, so to speak?
I think this very much depends on who the highest builder at the moment is. Timodeus didn't like the open areas at all, while Namo and Sung, I think, were the ones responsible for Anduin Vale and Dunlands and all those very open and North ABR rebuild. While Timodeus liked a bit more bottlenecked and the Old Forest Road and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it depends. The philosophy. Jesus Christ, I'm not English to try to say that word. It depends on the highest level builder, probably a lot, and those he designed the areas with.
Gotcha.
So
What do you think is best? How do you feel though?
yeah, you can look at the areas I've been the highest builder for and draw your own conclusions. So that's sort of that's MUME, that's Dol Guldur environments. Is it Tower Hills?
So you like hills and forests?
Sort of Underwarrens as well, even though Force was the supervisor for that, but he was kind of inactive.
Oh yeah.
So those 3 zones, I built the middle one and was heavily involved in the others as well.
So a question was brought up in chat a little while ago.
I felt like I did. Did I answer that question?
Yeah. It's because it's a sort of a trade off to me, because I remember when I joined in the '90s, when I started playing, the game was completely overwhelming to me. I got lost constantly, and I was constantly dying to wolves, so I was overwhelmed. But just the extent of the world, the fact that I could type in map and see these letters on my screen that showed a Middle Earth that I recognized from the book was really interesting to me. So I think there's a lot to be said for having, even if they're kind of the open or boring zones, just covering the world that's kind of conveys the full Middle Earth.
I think part of the reason why you have long stretches of zones that there might not be a lot of content in is that back in those days they had a lot of places they really wanted to reach. They wanted to get to Rivendell, they wanted to get to Tharbad, they wanted to get to Moria, they wanted to get, and so on. And these days, I don't know, where do we want to get to Barad-dûr? Do we want to get to Gondor? Where do we want to get to the south or far to the east? Smaug, obviously. Do we want to get to the Iron Hills? That's so far away.
Got it.
Then we'd have to do a lot of just zones that are there.
Pass-through zones.
Yeah, just because you need them. You can't have a bunch of super mobs in every zone, but you still want to get to that place 8 zones away, so you have to build a bunch of zones just to get there.
Is it a no idea to have like disconnected, kind of like a Valinor situation where you kind of like teleport? You like, you know what I'm saying? Where like you can get to Lake Town, but it's segmented as an island, kind of a thing.
Yeah, sort of.
That's a no idea.
They wanted to do that back in the day up north in Mirkwood. They built that little stump of a trail that goes, I don't know, 10 rooms into Mirkwood. You know, all the way north.
Yeah, where Ablees is.
Yeah, that's the trail the hobbits took, or the dwarves took, and the Bilbo in the Hobbit. And I read some old keywords, and the idea was that you start going down that trail, and then you blah blah, fall asleep maybe, something, some messages, and then you're at Thranduil's halls.
Oh, awesome!
It's pretty clever, actually.
That's great. That's amazing.
that got completely scrapped.
Okay.
I've seen talk about old keywords about maybe doing something like that for Rohan as well.
So you can get to like Edoras.
Yeah, you get to Edoras, and then you get to Gondor, and that was scrapped as well, and they started building the zones instead. So I would say that won't happen.
Gotcha. Was it scrapped by you, or was this like
this is
by the council?
This is years and years before my time.
Gotcha.
I wasn't involved in none of that.
This is when you were still killing people with Norsu, huh?
Around there.
Which we haven't even talked about yet, that you were the first level 100 in the game, period, right? Norsu was the first one?
Yeah, but I mean, all that required was no life outside MUME.
Yeah, it's just
it's
too easy.
Much of an achievement, really.
Well, it was a lot harder back then as well to get 100. I mean, it's hard now, but it was a hell of a lot harder then, because I mean, MUME was so much smaller then, and you really didn't have the kind of XP. So I mean, I know you primarily PK'd
I would
get
say
up to 100.
for an expert, it was way harder back then. But for a PK active person who didn't die a lot and killed many players, it was a lot easier than today. There was a lot more targets.
Like when you read like.
I mean, for a successful PK is really a zero-sum game for the XP, or it's even a negative sum game. The total XP from PK is a loss for the player base in total.
Really?
But if you're one of the successful, but I mean, if 2 orcs kills you level 60, they only get
200k.
100k
each.
Oh, yeah.
But you lose,
so it's asymmetric.
you lose more than 200k.
You keep losing more, but they don't gain more.
The
Is there no idea to fix that?
I would say,
Probably.
not really no idea, but I don't think will
Right.
increase the PK XP. But I mean, so in total, the player base as a total loses XP from PK. But the most successful ones that kill people and don't die themselves, they gain, of course.
Mm-hmm. And I assume, like you were saying, back in the day, that was a lot easier to be successful if that's what you kind of devoted yourself to. Whereas now, I feel like there's a big kind of gulf where you've either got people who have no clue what they're doing, or you have people who are very good at what they're doing. So you're either killing like a complete newbie, or you're not killing someone who really knows what they're doing. So like, there's not a lot of that like starting to PK, not very good level, you know?
Yeah, probably. There was a lot more targets, at least.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was easier. I mean, the percentage of successful players might have been the same. I have no idea.
Yeah. What do you think about PK balance or PK? Like, is that something you're personally motivated to invest time in your leadership in changing or evolving PK, or you kind of feel like it's, you're more interested in just building out the world?
I mean, every change we're doing affects PK. So that's always a consideration. But there's also larger problems, and what they are depend on who you ask.
Yeah.
There's always been something that's been dominant. And for the moment, I would say that's casters in metal armor, Storedquakes, and the Charmers, basically.
Excellent. Wait, are you Ziranovsky? Is that what we're hearing right now? Yeah. So, is there any interest? Because you said earlier that you're very interested in kind of going back and tweaking things. Is there any interest in tweaking the meta a little bit so that it's not that, which it's been for quite a while?
Yeah, we've tried taking some baby steps in that direction, but we have to get agreement from everyone on the management team, and it's not always we agree on what to do, and ideas just die because we can't agree on what the best course of action is.
Gotcha.
But I mean, we've taken some tiny steps towards making
like
maybe casters wear a bit less metal by adding some cloaks and tunics and small stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really change the meta in a big way, but
you're hoping to make some steps in that direction.
Yeah, but also, if you ask me what the best or what the meta is at the moment, and someone else, they can come up with a completely different answer. But I think we all agree that Charm, Storedquakes, and the casters in metal, combine those, and you have the
that's
meta basically.
It's definitely the go-to power character for sure. So do you actually play Mortal at all? I'm probably incog if you do, but do you ever hop on and just fool around?
Honestly, not nearly as much as I should be.
Gotcha. So that kind of goes into another question that I've
got. I mean, when I've played in the last, 10, 15 years, it's been as an XP. In an XP group. Yeah, I've led XP groups, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't PK actively. Oh, I promised you an explanation. What is a newbie on MUME? Because you get called a newbie all the time.
Oh yeah, I asked Rogan. I'm like, what is a newbie on MUME? Tell us, Rogan, what is a newbie? Why am I a newbie?
there's two parts to this. First of all, you must have at some point have been an active PKer. Otherwise, you're not entitled to calling people newbies.
Okay.
So a newbie is someone who started MUME after you had your peak in your PK career.
Gotcha.
So for me, it's 2002. That's when I reached level 100.
Oh, I see. So it's relative to the person.
Yeah, it's relative. So for me, anyone who started after 2002 is a newbie and always will be.
Well, that means exact month because I started in 2002. So it's like beginning of 2002 or end of 2002.
We don't have to be that specific. You're not a newbie.
Wow.
This
is very targeted right now, just so you know.
Wow.
Well, so all right, so FT Just for Just ask in the chat, does peeking behind the curtain, like seeing how the sausage is made, as it were, does that make playing the game less fun, or is it the same?
It's difficult when you have access to everything.
Mm-hmm. You just know what the stats are and everything.
Yeah, and you know who everyone is. You can see accounts and so on. And also, I mean, I know people say it's good if management should play the game, they should PK and so on, but do you really want someone who's very active in PK to also make balanced decisions on PK?
Yeah.
Is that? I mean, let's take an example. What was I known for when I was most active in PK?
Huge group. Steamroll.
Huge group. That's not true. We were usually no, but seriously, we were usually
like three of you.
We were usually 3 people to not get move delay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And to me, that's not a huge group. It's very difficult to chase someone in the open if you have move delay.
Mm-hmm.
That was always my play style, running around in the open and chasing people down.
Mm-hmm.
I was never one of the ones who go into areas and have these little duels.
Yeah, it was
fair fights and so on.
Spam people down, right?
Yeah, basically, and poison with poison, and poisons were nerfed. They were made to decay. They introduced the envenom skill. They made it so you can't put them on certain weapons. They made them decay fast on weapons. There was like 6 or 7 changes, all aimed to make poisons less effective. I won't say it was because of me, but I was certainly part of it. I mean, I wasn't the only one using poisons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But let's say I had been an errata back then, and with the power to veto decisions that others brought forth, and someone had posted on the management, poisons are really powerful. I think we should do these changes that would make it much less useful.
Mm-hmm.
Would I have said, "Oh yeah, kill my playstyle. That sounds fun," or would I have raised various objections towards it?
Yeah. So maybe there is value in not having, at least from the PK standpoint, not having a errata involved, because that does make sense.
If I was a very active PK now and wanted to be powerful and go with the meta, I would probably play a Shining Plate wearing caster with Sank, Quake, Charmis, and now you're wondering, do you want to do something about the meta?
Mm-hmm.
Would that also be the same if I had been playing the meta?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important that people who make the decisions both take input from players who are active and know what's going on. Even if you don't play yourself, you have to be informed. Otherwise, you can't.
You need to be informed, but not have a stake in it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a fact either. I'm just saying something now that I think is right, but I don't have the chat open, and probably 15 people in there all disagreeing with me. I don't know.
No, dude.
I imagine you find that when you design something, or when you're part of the design, you have an idea of how, say it's a super mob or something like that. You have an idea of how what the strategy should be to defeat that enemy. But I imagine it's probably very interesting when players come up with alternative and maybe even better ways of doing something. For example, I remember it was a little bit after Mirror came out, and I actually joined a group that you were leading. I think you were sort of semi-incog on that, so I won't say the
I
character
don't
name.
have any incog characters. You can name them all. I don't care.
The list.
Well, but anyhow, I joined, and we were doing the strategy of blinding the Witch King, and then doing his followers, and then doing him. And what me and a bunch of other people have sort of discovered after that was it works a lot better for us if we have a few Quakers. So we don't bother with blind because you can very easily fail blind. Even as a high level cleric, you can fail blind and waste your mana. So we usually get rid of the followers using Quakes, and then just take him out with Burning Hands. But do you find that things like that, where people come up with other strategies to do things that maybe because you're not playing the game, you might have this mindset of this is the one and only way how to kill something? I don't know.
Yeah, that's definitely true to some extent. I mean, we do play test and we do try to find ways of doing it effectively, but that doesn't mean someone else can come along later and discover a better way. I don't really have any objection to that. I mean, if you find a better way, good for you, really. Unless it's something ridiculous that people with charm again, can solo various super mobs, and I think they should be mostly a group thing. But yeah, we have tried to mess some with that by adding climbs and stuff to make it more difficult to bring along charmers in some places.
What do you think about just more directly incentivizing group play in the game?
Yeah, so I have an idea for that. We haven't managed to get it going anywhere. Basically, in the lore, it's great if we can connect ideas to the lore. That makes it easier.
Mm-hmm.
And something that's talked about a lot in the lore is a fellowship of the ring, and so on. So
You mentioned it once or twice.
Basically, having something to do with that. If you group with people over time and you build up something that gives you something, and it's an advantage to group with other players and so on. I want to do that.
Totally.
But we don't have the good ideas yet.
Yeah.
To make it
I think
or approval.
Yeah. In its current incarnation, the game kind of, there's sort of like this this loneliness. The game kind of pulls you to, like what often happens is people have a group of friends who they coordinate on Skype or Discord, and they end up just like only playing with those friends. And if their friends aren't if your friends aren't online, you just don't play. Or what also happens is you log in, you can't find a group, so you design your character around Charmies or whatever, a scout or something, solo play. And so just like the lack of grouping or the lack of other people who want to group makes you optimize around that. You design your character so they don't need a group, and so over time, kind of just like that over time, there's a feedback loop. There's a vicious cycle where the game just sort of like people separate, people gravitate apart. Like some people play in their power groups, which they coordinate offline. Some people just play solo, and the game becomes much more lonely. Because I remember back in the day, back in the 90s, when there'd be like 50, 70, 90 people on, it'd just be a never-ending stream of narrates, like who wants to group, who wants to XP, let's group. And it makes me sad that that's missing now.
I agree. I don't have anything to say against that at all. I fully agree. But I think some people say that it's partly because of the size of the map, that you're more spread out as players. and that I don't really agree with, because you get from A to B so easily.
Yeah.
These days, it's mostly the incentive to group is missing.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So,
But so if you have good fellowship ideas, throw them in the mailbox.
I like the idea of fellowship, and I mean, I kind of like the idea of I usually like the idea of building more things as opposed to nerfing, because I like that charm is there, especially for people like we have friends that are in the Philippines, we have friends that are in Australia, that they can't play at normal hours for the rest of the player base. When they're logging on, it's like 2 a.m. my time. There's maybe a handful of people playing a few level 10 characters or something. Like they're literally the only legend on, and they wouldn't really have another way to effectively sort of play if they didn't have a way to solo. And since Scout, Thief, whatever you want to call it, was nerfed back in 2006 or whatever, Mage with Charm is the easiest class to solo on. So I mean, for the sake of those players, and for the people that just they enjoy solo playing. Like my girlfriend plays MUD. She doesn't play MUME, but she plays other MUDs, and she usually is a solo player. She likes to play by herself. If she's in between doing stuff at work or after work or whatever, she's on the MUD that she plays, and she's crafting or doing XPing or doing whatever. And she actually likes that, as opposed to having to lead around a bunch of people or having to join an active group or whatever. So there are players that's a value too. And so I think finding the balance is a good thing, but I certainly think it's I like the idea of having things like more climb exits or whatever that might inhibit you from doing certain super mobs, but actually sort of outright nerfing charm, I think would hurt certain people in the player base. It would make it very difficult for them to play or enjoy playing.
I don't disagree. Any nerf will hurt someone. Otherwise, it's not a nerf at all. But I believe more in adding incentives to group than outright nerfing charm, for example. I think still that charm should have some tweaking, not making it useless, not overdoing it, but it's a little bit overpowered.
It is kind of ridiculous. You can pretty much solo Dragon if you know what you're doing. That's a little crazy.
Yeah, but also if you XP and you have 3 Mother Eagles with you, you're basically a 4-man group running around.
So and that kind of.
But I don't believe in nerfing it into the ground. And for grouping, for example, I believe we need to add incentives to group rather than punish those who don't group.
Absolutely, because one of the biggest problems is once you get over a group of maybe like 3, the diminishing returns are massive. If you have a group of 5 or 7 and you're not in a serious XP zone like DG or someplace, then you're wasting your time, and you would be more effective if you were in a smaller group for the most part. So you're already off the bat de-incentivized for that. But then also, if you could think about raiding, which I kind of want to get into a little bit, because we had the Mountain Troll buff, which maybe that was a last minute thing. But the entire point of the battle,
the Mountain Troll buff. We just should have called it MUME 9.
It's a new meta, a whole meta shift,
a whole new meta. Yeah.
but Mountain Troll, Battering Ram meta. But no, there can only be one reason for that, which is raiding. And raiding right now sucks because you need a ton of people, and the return on it is crap, because you don't get a lot of XP because there's way too many people. The risk of mob dying is fairly high. It takes a long time, and there's again go getting the battering ram, you're on like a 5-hour session basically if you want to really do that.
That's a 12-pack of beer.
That's a day, and again
I remember us doing that
Yeah, we did it because we were just like, no one's done this before. Let's do it.
And you and Mike were on for a few hours before I was.
Dude,
like, I joined kind of right as we were all we were about to get the battering ram, but you two had been preparing for longer than that.
Dude, it was like,
that was a 12 pack of beer day.
Yeah, that was like literally
that was,
6-8 hours.
That was like at least it was like 8 or 10.
And we had to like darken all the rooms from like Warren's all the way to BM. It was ridiculous.
Do you remember when the ram fell off that bridge? And they decided it was a bug, thank God. And I think it was Jahar or someone kind of moved it over one room because it was in the water and we couldn't get it out of the water.
That was hilarious.
Shout out Jahara. Thank you for that. Yeah.
But as silly as that was totally just a novelty. Like, we're gonna do it because why not? But like, there was the benefit from that is we got like maybe like what 200K and like at least one person mobbed, and it took forever. So are there plans to incentivize raiding? Like, is raiding supposed to be something that you guys are thinking about in the future? Is that why this change was made?
Not really, no.
Oh.
The battering ram was added to the game for a very, very specific purpose, and it wasn't to raid the puke towns.
Really?
That's not what it's for. Yeah. But that purpose isn't in the game yet.
Oh. Okay, I was trying to think of what else.
It was added 15 years ago, and we're not there yet. But
yeah. What about, on topic of raiding, what about instance or kind of out of like mirror quest? Because I mean, everybody I've ever done mirror quest loves it. It's really fun, and it facilitates a big group. It's one of the like biggest kind of group cultivating things in the game now. Is that like a one-off that you think you will never go back there, or could you envision us doing sort of like those instance type experiences, more of those?
I don't think it's necessarily a one-off, but it also splits the player base. You take 5, 6, 7 guys out of the game, out of the narrates, out of the grouping, except with the sharp. But I mean, they don't interact with the game. They're basically playing their own little game. And if we had like little 1-2 man instances and they were popular, the main game itself would be a lot more empty. But I wouldn't mind maybe 1 or 2 if we can find something special enough. And that can be explained by the lore. It has to be connected somehow.
Yeah.
It's such a big thing that we can't just throw it in somewhere.
Right.
Well,
maybe
mirror quest though, because that is definitely.
Yeah, we love it, and I honestly I feel like when mirror quest forces you to add groupies. Like you got your, maybe a couple people you regularly play with, and you're like, oh, let's do Mayor. So you're just like spamming tells. Like you type in who legend and you go through the entire list. Like, you want to play? You want to do Mayor? Do you know what Mayor is? Have you done Mayor before? You want to play? And it really forces you to kind of like reach out.
I like Mayor. It's a good design. We changed it a few years ago to make it more accessible, if you remember. It used to be crazy annoying to get in.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nate. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say one of the nice things about it too is that we would actually get people to log specifically to do mirrors. That was something you can log to do, or if we got people to log to do Balrog, but it wound up we didn't have enough people for Balrog. Well, Mirror's just right next to Moria, so we can just go over there and do Mirror because we might not have enough for Balrog, but we'll have enough for Mirror. So it was, I just want to say, like, I love Mirror. Mirror's awesome.
Yeah, Mirror rules. What are your, actually, that's a question. Rogon, what are parts of the game, be it a super mob or a zone or whatever, that you think are really, really, really well done? Like, what do you think of in the game as like the reference, and like the really like the high bar? What do you really like?
Well, I have to exclude everything I was involved with, of course. So I would say my favorite place is Unkalom. However,
yes,
Gloom.
Yeah, totally.
Yes,
that is a nice.
We love Gloom. We love Gloom. Yeah.
I led the first group that killed Gloom when it was introduced back in whenever.
Oh, without like implementer knowledge, like you were part of the first group that figured it out.
Yeah, I led it. The first group.
Oh wow! And
did anyone die?
Just flipping and dying.
the builders were Nienor and Jans, if you remember them.
Shout out to those guys, by the way.
Yeah,
'Cause
shout out.
amazing zone.
Oh my god.
I didn't know that they were invisible in the room, following us around to check out how we were doing. And honestly, at first, we were not at all impressed. So we were like, oh, what the fuck is this? Oh, this is crap. Why would they do this? And yeah, that kind of talk.
Uh-huh.
I got the first.
So you were trash talking the zone while
yeah. But I mean, if you follow someone around and you're invisible, that's at your own risk, you know. I got the first rock from in there, and I couldn't figure out what it was good for, so I dropped it on the road to Tharbad.
Oh no!
I threw it away.
Oh no! Where did you figure it out?
Someone else did.
Oh yeah, and then you're like, no.
It wasn't that bad. I think the Czech group, Alistair and
Tomas, yeah, makes sense.
I
feel like if you examine rock, the very last word is break. And so it's pretty like I don't know. I've always felt like if you examine it, as I play that game with myself, like if I hadn't learned this from Gray or somebody, would I have been able to figure it out on my own? And I don't know. Rock maybe is a tough one.
That description wasn't necessarily there when he discovered it, though.
Oh, that's a good point.
They
typically
update item descriptions from time to time.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Also,
the explosion. Sorry. Go ahead.
What other Uncle Gnome? What other zones? What other super mobs?
I don't know.
Are you a Moria guy? I think I've been with you in Moria a few times. Do you like Moria or?
I like, but I mean, when it was back in the day when I played, I didn't know Moria. It wasn't until Mappers that I actually started leading XP in there.
Got it.
Before that, I was only a follower in Moria, so I didn't go there very often. And honestly, in Moria, I love the place. It's great. But there's not a lot of super mobs in there.
What? There's a lot of super mobs.
There's a couple of strong mobs, but they have basically no features. They don't do anything.
Oh, I see what you mean.
They're just big.
Gotcha.
They're just big trolls.
Gotcha.
Or something.
I mean, Muranog, he doesn't do anything.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
The mobs in there are like that, but the place is still great.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need a lot of special features on super mobs for them to be, or in an area in general for it to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I love about Moria is that it creates it clearly like the muddle, the C, the code, the tools they had available back then, they used those to the max.
Yeah, the drums are great.
Yeah, they clearly maxed out. That was just that was a labor of love. I think Dane did Moria, right? Do you guys know?
Yeah, I've always heard that. I know Frur owns some of the zones.
Yeah, but there's interesting, like there's things like the there's not that many mobs that track you on, like if they see you or if they scout you. Is there anybody who does that outside of? I guess Sage does it, right? But is there anybody outside of Moria who does that? Like if you scout a room, they come after you?
There's two different kinds of hunting for mobs. One kind is that you fight them and they follow you. And the other kind is that if they walk across your tracks, they'll follow you. For example, demon wolves. They don't have to see you. They will still come for you. If they find your tracks. There's a couple of mobs. There's some... I think Orcish scouts are like that. Goblin scouts. They keep following you around until you kill them. But most mobs are more like you fight them and you flee and then start.
And that's why Black Patrols follow you, is because when you scout, your tracks go in the room?
I don't know exactly how scouting mobs. It might be a special code as well on the specific mob. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because we noticed when we were exploring that they have this weird behavior where instead of tracking your tracks, they like home in on you. So they'll take the shortest route to you. It doesn't matter where you left the tracks at, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually that was a global change, right?
I mean, I'm not sure this was before my time.
No, I know what happened. It used to be they tracked via the literal tracks you left in the room, but when Etheldir, or what's his name, the elf mob in the new zone east of Moray with the new sage quest with the ring and the elven girl, and you rescue her and that sage's apprentice. When that guy came out, because he tracks, it was possible with the zone design. It was possible to trap him somewhere, like you spam away and he gets stuck in a one way or something. And so Darkies could effectively take him off the table. And so something smart like that, I can't fully remember. And so Dane, there's some news item about it like 4 or 5 years ago. Dane changed the global tracking code to home in on your current location, like to take the shortest path between the mob's location and your current location instead of going on your tracks. Yeah, that was like an intentional global change.
Gotcha.
Like 4 or 5 years
It's
ago.
probably just using like Dijkstra's algorithm or something like that. So the same thing that Find the Path spell uses.
But it kind of reveals how like there's not that many different kind of behaviors amongst all mobs. There's like kind of like a small library or portfolio of like mob behaviors, and they all kind of share the same kind of common set.
Yeah, we have something called libraries that we put on rooms, mobs, and so on. But it's also, of course, possible to put something custom model on a mob if you want to behave different. Yeah. I'm not sure. I wasn't involved, so I can't really answer that.
What do you? I mean, maybe just like big picture, because we talked about all these little things. Big picture, where do you want to take Commute? I mean, 5 years, 10 years out. Big picture, what really motivates you? What excites you? Is it building out more of the world? Is it inventing new things for players to do outside of XP or PK? Like, what's your big vision for the game?
I have to have one. Oh.
Yes, it's mandatory. You must have one.
For building, I mean, basically, if you go back in time, I'm a builder. I don't code. And there's never been, as far as I know, a specific person or group of people who only do game design. If you're interested, then you can get involved with it. But at heart, I'm a builder. I like building. I like designing areas. Mm-hmm. And I have ideas and I write them down, try to convince people we should do this, we should do that, and we sometimes make things happen.
Well, and you're probably the number one author of room descriptions, my guess, right?
I have no idea. I've written a bunch, but I try to avoid them these days.
That would actually be kind of cool, as if you had like a leaderboard for who desked enough rooms or whatever, so like you incentivize people.
That's not saved anywhere. I mean, you can't go back to. You can if there's some way with. We're logging changes. I don't know how that code stuff.
Yeah.
But in theory, you can see who added the room, I guess. But there's nothing like that, like a list of who. I mean, zones have owners, but
so kind of going along with Mike's question here, though. So like, if you had 20 builders right now who were all motivated, dedicated, hoorah, let's go, and you had a year, what would you build?
Probably nothing in a year. Honestly. But seriously, I feel we kind of dodged the big picture question here. Where will we be in 5 and 10 years? But for the game overall, I don't think we have we try to add fun stuff, make it more interesting, keeping it alive. MUME has been stagnating for maybe 15 years, basically since the no sneak changes. Since then, there's been like a year, and we do something. We did the track changes. If you remember those, Bloody Tracks and Pursue Command.
Yeah, Pursue,
Yeah, there's a year, and we do something else. Meanwhile, we do small stuff here and there, but I think the Subrace changes is the first big thing for a long time.
Absolutely.
I'm probably wrong. There's probably been other big stuff, but that's what I can recall
now.
The
level.
Yeah, that was my idea. I don't know if it turned out well or not, but I take responsibility.
I think I know I'm sure there's people in the chat who will be like, "Oh, you unbalanced or debalanced this," but
Yeah, but
definitely,
basically that was from player whining. They complained that there's these high levels, it's level 70, and my level 30, I don't have a chance because of blah blah power difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the idea is that you're more powerful at 25, but you're the same at 100. So it just shifts the scale so that lower legends have more of a chance against higher legends.
Mm-hmm.
But
I liked that change.
I love it,
thought
man.
was
I mean,
I thought it was a good change because I got a bunch of free practice sessions for all of my legends.
Yeah, before that, you had to make a hard choice between like Breakdoor and Sankers or something. Like, you really had to make hard choices.
There was also
hard choices are good though.
True.
You should have to make hard choices.
True, but there's also this mentality where like people would say like, yeah, a combo is not good until it's level 50. Like you'd have to get it to level 50, and then you'd be like, yeah, it still sucks. But now you can make that decision a lot earlier.
But so what? I mean, you
No. We have to answer the questions.
Yeah.
Are you going to repeat? Are you going to repeat or ask a new one?
No, just a big, like, where 5 years, 10 years. I mean, you're certainly the most conspicuous, and I mean, I think most people look to you as the guider, kind of of the game. Like, what's your big, what mode, like, what would, like, instead of saying like specifically like, we're gonna do X and Y, just like what would be exciting for you like 5 and 10 years now? Is it tons of more players? Is it tons of new skills and abilities? Is it reaching smog? Like, what kind of gets you excited there?
First of all, I think those people need new glasses who look to me, because for example, Jahara. Come on. Jahara has a lot of an easier time of it making changes, and he's very active because he can code them as well. But really, we talk about things before we try and do them. So it's always a group effort. It's never like one guy.
Mm-hmm.
There has been in the past, but right now where it's Jahara, it's me, it's Imago, who are the most active in design. And then we have some Maya shapers and a couple of Maya brides as well who are involved.
Yeah.
So it's mostly a group effort. It's definitely not me.
Well, for sure. I mean, no, I don't. I'm certainly not suggesting anyone perceives you as being controlling or domineering, but your leadership, your energy, enthusiasm, leadership. Yeah. Apart from Slaya, your leadership and your enthusiasm are a big part of, I think, a lot of what's been happening.
I can agree. It's a part of it.
So, what would get you excited? Like 5 years from now, you're like, man, it's amazing what we've accomplished. I'm looking back on the past 5 years. It's incredible. What is it that gets you really excited then?
MUME is alive.
Yeah? Well, we're heading there, man. Absolutely.
No, but it's that simple. If people are playing, we're doing good.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been, as I said, kind of stagnating. It's been really slow. The player base has dwindled for years. It still didn't die, and that's almost a bit surprising. But basically what we need to do to keep MUME alive is do things.
Yeah.
To me. It doesn't matter if it's great or if it's average, as long as it's not downright bad. But just doing things.
Absolutely.
Keeping it fresh.
I couldn't agree with more with you.
So, I mean, I can, if other people have ideas they really burn for, as long as I don't think they're stupid, I can get on board with it. Just for doing
there's
things.
the problem. There's the problem.
Now I know why you don't like my ideas. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, but all ideas are stupid.
This is sort of management insight in MUME. So we have some Vala and Arata. I don't know exactly how many we are, 8, 9. And we basically don't do anything that someone is strongly against.
Okay, so it's total consensus. Okay.
It's like the UN.
This slows it down, obviously. But it also doesn't step on anyone's toes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if you step on toes a lot and you're all volunteer workers, you're going to make people quit and go away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good and bad. I mean, back in the day, they probably had like 3-4 implementers that made the big decisions. And if you were going to be a Vala or an Arata, you kind of knew that and you got on board with it. But we don't have that now.
Today it's more consensus based.
And it slows down our development times.
Curious, do you chat with Manwe much?
I've spoken directly to Manwe once. And that was when he demoted me.
This is good chat. Good chat.
So you guys then, I mean, I know we have the whole concept of Manwe units or whatever, but it sounds like you guys actually have, the current management group has quite a lot of autonomy and control so long as that kind of consensus is upheld, it sounds like.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, Manwe isn't really active in development of the game. He still logs on and he checks around, but I have no idea how interested he is or how up to date with news posts and board messages and all that.
And the mountain, he wasn't involved in the mountain troll battering ram change? Or?
No. I can get. I mean, this is probably. I shouldn't say this, honestly, but we're thinking about giving mountain trolls another addition that will probably make it a bit overpowered. It's not decided yet, but it's on the table, and we're thinking about making them better at shaking trees.
Oh, that would be so overpowered. Are you kidding me? Dude, you can't give them two overpowered abilities.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Like I said, it's not decided. It might be too
yeah. Well, that would definitely need Manwe involved in that personally.
Yeah, that's what. There's no way Froer is on board with that.
And possibly the Tolkien estate as well, I think. But
So
I thought where you guys were going, where you're gonna make mountain trolls stronger at bashing doors. That's what I thought you were going. In the back, a hint of that, but
until it's done, it's not done, and we will try and do some more stuff. We're not, we don't think it's done where it is right now. So,
right.
And what was the question? If I had a lot of builders, what would I build?
So it was basically, if you had a ton of builders and you had kind of infinite resources and whatever you wanted to get done in the next 6 months to a year, you could get done. What would you build?
So, isn't the podcast over around now?
It's pretty close, but we gotta keep this game. It's not over yet.
Juicy material, man. Yeah.
Okay, so there's basically four places in my mind that we could build. And I'm not counting rebuilds and tweaking existing areas. We're doing a bit of a rebuild now, for example, in around Bree. And this is nothing that will interest any of our more experienced many legends in their accounts players. We're fixing the areas. The room desks are ancient. The maps are broken. If you look at them in the mapper, for example, you see this. They're not full zones. There are a lot of empty blocks and all that. Yeah, it's because they were built in a time when you could only have 100 rooms in a zone. And if you wanted a cave, you had to take out a room somewhere.
Oh.
That's why the Shire and Road to Fornos and those areas look weird on maps. And the room desks are ancient and not up to current standards at all. And there's basically no quests. So we think that it might help new players if we fix those areas. It's bad if the first areas you see in the game are crappy. Yeah. We have Dol Guldur environs and we put a lot of effort at it. But if you're a new player, you're going to see Road to Fornos way, way ahead of that.
True. Makes sense.
So we're doing some rebuilding there, for example. But we're not building any of these areas right now. Just so you know, I'm not saying this is going to happen soon. But there's 4 areas that I think are interesting from a lore standpoint.
Oh yeah.
And that is, first of all, Lonely Mountain.
Absolutely.
But that's a pretty big project because you have to build first the rest of the path through Mirkwood. Then you have to build the Long Lake, Lake Town, the ruins of Dale, and then the Lonely Mountain itself. So that's a pretty big project.
In the timeline right now, is Smog in Lonely Mountain?
Yes.
Okay, got it. So we'd have to have Smog himself.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's one smob in one place. And there's not from the lore, it's a dragon's lair. There's one big dragon in there, and then pretty much nothing, except treasure.
Except for the awesome.
But it's an important lore place.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Plus, just that would be like the full west to east extent of the map. You could start in Grey Havens and
there's the Iron Hills if you keep going east, but I don't know if that's interesting.
Okay, that's one. Keep going.
Yeah.
That's one. The other is Rohan.
Rohan, really? That's on your list. Okay.
Well, it's one of the 4 places that's interesting from lore standpoints. Yeah. That's there's lots of names and but it's a big area, and it's sort of halfway built at the moment, but it's basically also written and designed as a sort of, let's say, a shire, but with much more powerful mobs.
Okay.
And to me, that's not interesting. We don't need a big shire with tons of Rohir patrols riding around. What's going to happen there?
Yeah, you'd probably have to have like a new mechanic, basically, that goes along with it.
It's all open fields as well.
Yeah.
So the area, the town itself, how interesting is it with the Puke Town down there, really? And the area, open fields, strong patrols, it doesn't really interest me, but it could be changed and it could be made interesting, maybe. I don't know. It's important for the lore. Everyone knows about Rohan.
Yeah.
There are a few places as well. There's Helm's Deep, and theoretically there's the Path of the Dead as well.
Oh my gosh, I didn't think about
There's
that.
the glittering caves and a few things, but
that could be a cool.
That could be like a second Moria, basically.
the places are interesting like that, but not all the land in between. But yeah.
For a couple of years, they'll have the War of the Rohirrim. It will be a full-length movie directed by a lot of the I should say written by a lot of and acted by a lot of the same people from the Peter Jackson movies, and so that might draw some interest towards Rohan. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, 3rd place. Isengard.
Oh yeah. That's already kind of built, right?
It's partly built, at least.
Okay.
And there's Isengard, there's Orthanc the Tower, there's Saruman at the top. And that's obviously an important lore place. Smobs, loot, all that stuff. And it doesn't really need any building to get there either.
Is Saruman, because it's kind of nebulous in the game if he's evil or not. Is he building orcs at this point, or?
Yeah, so MUME's timeline is from 2850, I think, to 3019. Basically from when Gandalf enters Dol Guldur and gets the key to Erebor, I think, until the ring is destroyed. So anything in between there is a bit fluid.
So he could be orcs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. This isn't created in game, but I would imagine that he is as he is now, until you prove his evil, and then his other self, and have orcs and so on. Something like that. I don't know exactly how we do it. But it would probably have two states. One where he's sort of neutral, like he is now, and one where he's evil. I mean, we wouldn't want to remove him as he is now either. You know, wandering around, you give him stuff and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be in game part of the time, and part of the time when you do some quest or whatever and prove he's evil, then he's not wandering around outside. You have to go in and kill him. I don't know how you're going to get into Isengard. There's these big, strong gates. I don't know how to open those, really. Do you guys have any ideas?
It's almost like we need some mountain trolls or something.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
It all comes full circle.
There we go. Mountain Trolls. The secret, the 30-year roadmap of MUME has been building towards mountain.
Mm-hmm. And the fourth place is, of course, someone say it.
Mordor?
Someone say it.
Is it not Mordor?
Gondor?
Jesus Christ. Where is Sauron?
Mordor, Barad-dûr, right?
No.
No, he's in Dol Guldur.
Oh, he is in Dol Guldur.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Oh, yes. I'm okay. Gotcha.
So that's the fourth place. And we're basically there as well. Mm-hmm. We have the road and everything. You know, the road that just ends. That's basically leading up the hill to the stronghold.
Mm-hmm. And so wait, but that means if he is in Dol Guldur, theoretically, if Dol Guldur opens, do we meet Sauron?
Yes. I mean,
but he's in like a reduced state, right? He's not in his. He's still building his power, right?
Yeah, I believe that when he doesn't have the ring, he can't take physical form, right?
Right.
So he's just a spirit form,
a wraith or something. Yeah,
and of course reduced in strength.
Right.
But I mean, if he wasn't reduced in strength and you were to face him,
you should get destroyed.
Kind of interestingly, when Tolkien wrote The Hobbit, and he had this, he said Gandalf goes off to fight the necromancer. At that time when he wrote it, he didn't have in mind that the necromancer was Sauron. He needed a plot device to get Gandalf out of the way so that the dwarves and Bilbo could be on their adventure alone, because Gandalf was overpowered as a character. But then when he wrote The Lord of the Rings, he kind of retroactively went back and was like, the necromancer, that was actually Sauron. That Gandalf, and Gandalf discovered that this was actually Sauron in Dol Guldur. But it is interesting that he originally did not intend the necromancer to be so. It's sort of ambiguous in the time of a Hobbit, in the book.
I don't know exactly what order he wrote Silmarillion and that all the world building stuff, but The Hobbit is basically a children's book.
Yeah.
No, but it is really. It's
yeah, I know. I believe it. I get it.
What I kind of say to people is the Lord of the Rings is not a sequel to The Hobbit. The Lord of the Rings is a sequel to the Silmarillion. It's just the Silmarillion.
Yeah, I agree.
It's published later on, but the Silmarillion, he wrote the stories in that he was writing long before The Hobbit even.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I looked at Twitch. There's a lot of chat there.
Yeah.
Questions directed. I'm sorry, I haven't even had it open. I can't push my my push to speak button when I'm in Firefox because it's a command in there, so it keeps spamming me.
Gotcha. Oh, you use Firefox. Okay. Well, we actually did have one question from the Twitch users. I'm gonna have to scroll up to find out who it was. But essentially, they were saying, kind of the classic questions you mentioned earlier in the podcast, that one of your what's the real holdup here is builders, not reviewers. So, is there anything we can do to help speed up that process of getting builders involved? I know we've got a couple of Istari who are just becoming Maya right now. How can we, kind of get people involved?
Yeah, the first question then is how fast do we want to build? Because every time we open zones, there's always some people that complain that we're expanding the world again, and it's harder and harder to find people and so on. How quickly do we want to build zones? How many areas do we want to open in any period of time? But also, I mean, our current level, advancement method is basically that you build first. And I know there's a lot of people who don't like this and question this. And I heard it was a topic on Imago's podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if anyone has any dreams of becoming a Vala, at the moment with our current system, you have to build first. And that's our future. That's it. Everyone has taken that path. So anyone who wants to build, anyone who wants to be more involved, eventually maybe in management and decision making and all the stuff, have to come through building at the moment. So we should definitely always accept builders and find something for them to do. Either if they just want to build because they think that's interesting, or if they have other things they want to do in the future, maybe.
Like help with a model or something.
Yeah, and I know this. I heard, I listened to that podcast. Why do you have to build before you can model and so on? And that's a good question. I'm a builder. I can't speak for the coders, so you shouldn't ask me this.
Fair.
No, but seriously, if someone is going to be managed, I mean, you can do some model on Maya level at the moment. Maya Wright can get model access. For example, Alunion, who's built a zone in the Bree rebuild project, has model access at the moment. So he's done some. You've seen his name in some Subrace news post.
He's been involved in it.
So he's a new modeler who took that path. And I mean, everyone you see coding and who has coding with Frur, Baba, Imago, Jahara, they all built a zone or several. But basically, it's a way of both gaining knowledge about how everything works in rooms, libraries, mobs, objects, and all that stuff. And before you touch code, you really should know about that stuff. But it's also about building trust. We learn to get to know the person, and the person gets to know us. If you're going to be part of a team, it's important for everyone to know and trust each other.
I think it's super reasonable. But
I wouldn't. Yeah, sorry.
No, I just say one interesting thing that the Imago conversation and this conversation has opened my eyes is I think the player base, or at least maybe I'm speaking about myself, really kind of misunderstands some of the building and that culture and that process. Because I mean, everybody just sort of always had this idea that management's very far removed, does not really listen or pay attention, and there's like these obscure reviews and you have to wait for months or years to get things reviewed, and it's very, very slow. But it sounds like really there's not those blocks, or there's not those overheads or obstacles. Those obstacles are not there. It's really just a question of people with willing to put in the effort and build the trust and build the relationship.
You need drive. You need to be driven. You need to complete your stuff and be easy to work with, sort of. but I mean, if someone shows up and says, "I'm a very good coder. I could do amazing stuff from you," but you can't really do that stuff unless you have access.
Right. Totally. No.
You can say, "Yeah, but I can code on a test MUME." Yeah, but not really. I mean, some things, yes, but we don't have second-class citizens among the Valar. If you're a Valar, you have access. That's it. you're trusted, and you can basically do anything any other valet can do. And so let's quick question for let's say Taryn. You have played MUME since 2000?
96.
96.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you attached to your account?
What do you
Would you say there's an emotional investment into your account?
Oh yeah, for sure.
You have spent how many hours on that?
Oh, infinite.
Hundreds isn't enough. Thousands for sure.
Yeah.
So if we take this guy, he has a character called Snowdrop. No, let's say Snowflake. There's a character named Snowflake.
Yeah.
Would you be okay with that guy having access to your account?
Is that you? Or
are you okay with me having access to your account?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but that guy, let's say it's not me. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, I trust. I mean, I don't. Hold on. I don't like. I'm comfortable with it because my concept of the game and my enjoyment, my emotional investment in the game is very much based on the fact that it's a community-driven project of very smart, very creative people who have a high bar. So,
yeah, but this guy, we don't know him that well, but he's a great
Snowflake.
Yeah,
I think I see Rogan's point is he's saying that would you want someone to have the power to affect your account that you have?
No, but hold on, but I'm not.
They haven't been vetted.
I get it, but hold on, no, but I don't. Maybe I'm not gonna go back and listen to whatever the hell I said in Imago's podcast. I think it's very reasonable to require people to build something before you code. But what I'm saying is maybe me and maybe other people actually have a big misconception about how building goes. Everything I just finally made a Maya or whatever this week, but everything I've ever heard for 25 years is that building was a super slow, painful pain in the ass where you couldn't get responses and you couldn't get reviews and it took forever. And so I guess maybe just subconsciously for me, I'm just been stuck on this idea that it's a slow, difficult thing. It's not worth the time investment. And so I just sort of like put it off on the side. But chatting with Imago and chatting with you today, Rogon, it's like, oh, maybe I need to invert that. So whatever. So when earlier in a previous episode, when I was suggesting like, man, we should fast track people who have really good coding ability, it wasn't so much it was because I disagreed about the importance of building and game crafting and understanding the world. It was more just because I had this perception, maybe a very wrong perception, that building was an insane, cumbersome pain in the ass. But maybe not. I don't know.
People who fail at building doesn't generally fail because they don't get reviews.
Okay.
They mostly fail because they find it boring. Okay. It's not really what they wanted to do. If they want to code, for example, it's a task that takes a lot of time, and it's not really what they wanted to do. Yeah.
But no, I'm not.
Generally, sorry, I'm going to finish.
Sure, of course. Yeah, go ahead.
Because I said half the sentence. I'm not exactly against another path of advancement than building, but building is what we have and that we sort of know works. And it takes time. It's a bunch of hours, and those hours is where we get to know you, get to trust you. And if we could do the same with coding, and the coders have the time to put into that, to get to learn someone and all that, and there's meaningful things to do, then I'm not exactly against it. I'm not a coder though, and I can't really speak for that.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, very reasonable. I find that very reasonable. Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. So, we're gonna have to wrap it up kind of soon here, just because we don't want. I understand Rogan. I think it's 10:50 over there. I don't want to keep you up too late, man.
I will go to bed around midnight, so it's no panic on my part.
Oh, okay. Well, then great. All right, cool. I was gonna hop into hot takes or anything, but yeah, we will be hopping into hot takes before too long. So if you guys don't have any thoughts about that, probably
let's do it. Let's get those takes out.
Absolutely. Rogan, since you're our guest, would you like to spit some fire about a hot take on MUME?
I don't really have a hot take. I think we covered everything already.
Yeah.
But I have a question,
Oh, okay.
and it's more of a lukewarm question. It's not really hot. So the question is basically this: let's say someone built something 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and you go back to that today, and you see that they made a mistake. They misunderstood how something works. This isn't working as it was designed. This isn't working as the intent was of the original builder. Should you go back to fix that, or should you leave it alone? Because by now, players have sort of gotten used to how it works. It's not working as it was meant to, but everyone is used to it as it is now. Do you leave the mistake, or do you fix it?
I think that requires some nuance, because you have to. So you're sure you know what this player's intent was, or what the law requires. Like, there's no question.
Yeah, let's say you're absolutely certain.
You're absolutely certain.
Yeah, 100% certain.
Okay, then I would say fix it. But I would say, if there's an expected behavior, give the player base, don't spring it on them. Give them a little bit of warning. Say, I wouldn't even make it like just a news post after the change is made. I would say, if, for example, if it's something that's could potentially result in a bunch of players mob dying, I would say, like, give them a week or two. Say, a week or two from now, insert date, then this change will happen because this was not the intended behavior of this mob or this zone. I mean, that's what I would say, is that, and I would say, if it's, if it's possible to contact the original designer, I'm sure the original designer would probably like to be notified, but it's probably not easy.
I'm thinking of a specific case here, but
So
in this case, it's not possible. But you're saying fix it, but warn people.
No,
I take
Nuzo. Hold on one second. Nuzo in chat, by the way, thinks it's his zone. Just so we're clear, by the way. So, but go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I think you have to evaluate I don't care about correctness myself, because there's already a ton of things in MUME that I don't think correctness is a big deal, or I think you have to kind of evaluate it based on the impact of the player base. Like, one change, this is probably a minor thing, but you guys, there was a terrain change. Like, there was a lot of rooms that I think were historically as just room or indoors terrain.
They were indoors, yeah.
Yeah, and they were moved to a cave or cavern or whatever. That change, I'm sure it probably affected some orcs sneaking and stuff like that, or maybe, I don't know, quake damage. I have no idea, but it breaks sync on Mapper so much that I don't think that change was worth it, personally. I think that change, the effect of new players losing sync in random obscure places and getting confused, I don't think it was worth the incremental benefit of the correctness of the zone terrain. But I don't know. That's my take.
Sometimes bugs become features over time.
Yeah, they do. And this is a bug that became a feature that I'm talking about. And what breaks Mapper is mostly that we fix room names and the room desks, the typos and stuff like that. And I mean, if you see a spelling mistake, it's hard to just leave it alone.
Yeah, of course.
But that's not what this is. But I need to pee. We have been there for like 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe 4 hours.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to go AFK for a minute.
Okay, sounds good.
And I'll be back. I mean,
we'll be timing
everyone in chat, take a toilet break. And we will be right back.
Gotcha. I've been drinking wine all this time.
So cut to commercial. Yeah. Sponsored by Doritos.
Yeah, I actually got to go get my little baby. So
yeah, gotcha.
I am off, but awesome pod. Thanks as always. My thanks to Rogon. And,
absolutely.
I'll listen to the last bit.
Thanks, Mike. We'll be wrapping up in a couple minutes anyway. But yeah,
see you, boys.
Take it easy. Yeah, man. But fuck, we need some a commercial play right now. We got to monetize this shit. What are we doing? Nick, you got any
Oh, say what now?
I was gonna say, like, you have any plugs you want to post, or promotions you want to plug right now? See if we can get sponsored by Coca-Cola.
Well, I'm drinking my amazing Franzia wine. This is the beverage of choice of all 21-year-old sorority girls across the nation.
Perfect. This
Spring
is
break.
We're even on the right demographic right here too. This is perfect. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the I couldn't. They didn't have my normal beer, so I bought this crap instead. Wine. That's how I plug things.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I think I think with what we were saying before, I'll mention it when Rogon gets back, but it's like, having a caveat with what I said is that if there's a problem, fix it. But if a bug turns into a feature, then it's no longer a bug; it's a feature. It's like there is a point where something becomes a feature, and it's no longer a bug; it's an expected behavior.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
Even if that wasn't intended.
That's
so
the thing.
I mean, so sometimes something is an expected behavior, and it's not worth it to change.
What bug / feature do you think he's talking about? Chat. What do you think he's talking about? Maybe backstab is actually supposed to work all the time. Maybe that's a thing.
Well, I know. For example, they changed Bash and the way Bash worked with mobs. I don't know. What was this? 10 years ago, something like that. And I know this. A lot of people were not fans of this because all of a sudden you had mobs in things like Master Assassin would try to bash the door, or you'd have black patrols in Moria. You could no longer lock them up. They'd bash the door down, so they couldn't. They were all of a sudden became much more dangerous, and it wasn't really announced very well, and you had a bunch of people sort of mob dying as a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing that big.
Oh, you're back. Okay, got
all right. Yeah.
I've been back for 5 minutes.
Oh, okay, that was a quick one.
Did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said about like what I wanted to say when you came back was like we were talking about like a change that it's like, well, if it's something that needs to be fixed, fix it, warn the player base. But if it's something kind of like what Mike was talking about, that it's a bug that over time has become a feature, then if it's a feature, it's not a bug, and yeah.
Where is Taran?
Taran had to step out. He's got to go get his kid right now, so we're gonna be wrapping up in a couple minutes here.
Okay, so I'm talking about something that a small change that Toby, who was on here 3-4 weeks ago,
mm-hmm.
he claimed that the change happened because of him.
I think I know what you're talking about.
What you're talking.
I think I know what you're talking about. My only 2 cents just in general would be like, I think regardless of whether it's what the builder intended or not intended or whatever intended is, doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, if players like it and there's more participation in the game, basically if it boosts the game, keep it. If it doesn't boost the game, get rid of it. That's at the end of the day. That's how simple it should be. But now I think I know what you're talking about, and I think you should change it back.
It's funny because he thinks he's responsible for that. I know at least one other player that thinks he's responsible for that. It seems a lot of people think they're responsible for that change. So I don't know who actually was the person who, or if it was a.
Let's not say what it was until someone in chat guesses.
Someone in chat knows.
We won't say what it is, but
we'll talk about it. But we'll not
exactly.
not let you know what we're talking about. So what happened was in that instance that the builder had made a mistake with the library on the room.
Mm-hmm.
So he had set up the correct library, and he had set it to work on the south and on the up exits.
Mm.
So if you looked at it, it looked correct.
Mm-hmm.
But the library didn't work that way. It didn't accept 2 directions at once. So it only worked on the first direction. So he had set it up in a way that he thought it was correct. But what you really needed to do was set it up for both directions. Where you had to set up 2 libraries, one for each direction.
I wasn't using it correctly.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But also, I think the library was supposed to work on all directions you set for it. Otherwise, why be able to set more than one, right?
Yeah.
So either it's a bug in the library or...
So all that time...
And he obviously never tested it.
Yeah.
Or possibly it broke after he set it and it worked in the beginning, I don't know. But when I looked at it, I saw that this isn't how it's supposed to be. This isn't the intent. The intent is that it's going to work on both directions. And it doesn't. So I fixed it.
All that time, that was a bug the entire time.
Or a builder mistake, I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So I fixed it.
Uh-huh.
And some people say, great, now it's easier to chill in Goblin Town and BFK and something. You ruined the fun. And I'm not sure if it was correct. I did it, but I can't say 100% certainty that it was a correct decision. But it was a decision I made, so it's there now, and it's what it is.
It is what it is. I mean, I would personally, I'd love to see that go back, but that's maybe we should start a poll with like the on MUME Discord.
Yeah, maybe you would have your opinion would carry more weight if you worked your way up to Vala or Arata.
I'm just a lowly pleb right now. Fair enough.
So for the chat, I mean, we have to say sometime. They're not going to guess it correct. It's the Wolf Gate that you can't flee up from Chieftain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
you were never meant to be able to flee up there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a builder mistake or a coder bug that let you flee up. And I fixed it, and I'm sorry for those who hate it. For those who don't like it.
Well, that's also though another point I wanted to bring up before we closed out here, which is that obviously as management and one of the higher management, you have to deal with a lot of not everyone is happy with every change in MUME. There's a lot of criticism that comes, but especially given
wait 1 second. Oh, no one is happy with every change.
True.
Okay, go on.
True. All right. But I don't think that people understand how, like the majority of the MUME population don't understand how much time and effort you and your fellow builders have put into this game and how much time and effort. I mean, a lot of times you're on invisible, so that means that, if you're a mortal player, you can't see him. But you're on, several hours a day, and you've put in thousands of hours of work over the last couple of years.
I can tell you my online time, but I mean, there's obviously lots of idle hours in here as well.
Yeah, tons of. Go for it.
Do you know, this is only on Rogon. This is not my account. This is only my god.
Yeah.
Has been online for 9 years, 2 months, 25 days, and 17 hours.
Jesus Christ. That is, that's an insane amount of time. And that just kind of goes to show how much you've been involved through this whole process. And while people don't always see it, because again, of the whole invisibility thing, I genuinely don't think enough of our management gets enough credit for the work they put in. Even if some people don't like the work, I forget the name of the person, but whoever did the thief changes back in the day, that sucked. But the amount of effort that was put in by everyone to get even to that point, can't be overstated. So I wanted to go ahead.
Yeah, no, don't. Please.
Don't.
Everyone who's doing things.
Absolutely.
Oh God. I mean, building, coding, whatever, helping out with whatever.
Absolutely.
They obviously do it because they love the game, right? Mm-hmm. Same as it's the reason why people play it. I mean, maybe not everyone loves it, but they're interested at least.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that's even if decisions might be good, they might be bad. The intent is there. It's for the sake of MUME.
Mm-hmm. And that's the whole deal. Is to keep the ship rolling, right?
Yeah, basically.
Absolutely.
And the ones you see in management might not even be the best people for the job. They're just the ones who put the most time into it and put the effort into it.
What's the Batman quote? It's not the hero that we need, but it's the hero that, or it's not the hero that we deserve, but it's the hero that we need. That's what we got right now. So
Yeah, something like that.
But no, I just wanted to give a shout out again to management because you know, at the end of the day, everyone's just working their butt off on this free project trying to make the game better. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. But we'll probably closing up here right about now. I don't know if we still want to do any hot takes unless you've got one, Rogan.
Yeah, no, I had a lukewarm take.
Yeah, the lukewarm take.
I want to hear your hot takes.
Fair enough. Nick, you got one?
Mine is kind of a silly one.
Go for it.
It's kind of borrowing from a thought I had on a previous podcast. But mountain trolls should be able to become master chefs, because we have a precedent here with the mob west of Grinder, the troll cook, and you have the apron and the spoon and the cauldron or whatever she uses. Yeah, you should be able to go and collect the ingredients. Say, like, here's a you know, a hobbit's toes and a dwarf's beard and an elf's ears, and we can, you know, you should be able to have essentially a troll specific casserole and make delicious troll food.
You know,
I don't have any objections at all. But I will also say this. We made, you know, in the Underwarrens area, there's these, you can butcher them and get some food you can eat. And it gives you sort of a, the molds. It gives you a power up.
Yeah.
And when I designed that, I thought trolls would love this. It's a great power up for when you get into a fight. And it turned out that they didn't really care.
You know, we actually made use of it when I was leading
for Balrog.
Yeah, when I led Balrog on Troll, we'd collect those quite frequently and eat them just before going to battle.
Yeah, but that's too specific to be. Oh, it's a Balrog thing. So I don't mind the troll role playing. Trolls are the most suited race for role playing stuff. They have the most time to engage in it.
Yeah, they do.
Absolutely.
I remember back in the day.
I have no objection as long as there is a code around everything that wants to engage in it. And that's something else that it's difficult to explain if you haven't been part of it. The way we have is when you want to bring an idea to life. It's one thing to have an idea. Oh, I think we should do this. But to actually make it happen, you have to put quite a few hours into it. You have to write it up in a reasonable way. You have to, you know, put it to the rest of the management. You have to make sure no one hates it or don't want to do it. Sort of navigate through all that, get everyone on board. We should do this. We can do this. Good, fine. And then you have to find a coder to do it. You have to write whatever it is, messages and maybe help files. All depends on what it is.
Well, and every idea that you have, I mean, it's very easy to come up with an idea, but unless you have the power to implement the idea from start to finish, you're relying on other people to implement your idea for you, which, you know, I know a lot of people can be very, very entitled with the ideas they have, because they're like, oh, it's, you know, we should be doing this, that, and the other thing, and it's like, well, that's someone else's time, and they might want to work on things they want to work on. So
and I'm the worst person for it because I'm probably the only one among the Arat that is active now who can't code. Well, so I'm always dependent on someone else. And I mean, for example, I'm going to take something specific as an example here. On Elven Rules, Elestir Rice has written several times about Sindar elves that there should be some singing related. You know, sing something around the campfire, make others regen more, something like that. Bard or you know, those kind of ideas in that direction. We've already try that, and someone didn't like it, so it didn't happen. And
got it. So it got vetoed essentially, even though
yeah,
it was already...
that's such a trope from other places, from other games. Yeah, I don't really like that, and we kind of dropped it.
Okay.
Sometimes if someone doesn't like something, you can keep arguing for it and maybe win them over, but often it's just not worth it if you get the vibes that they're not going to like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, when we're doing Subrace changes now, we're having maybe 3 dropped ideas for every one we do.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. I don't have a specific ratio for that, but it's more dropped than done.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say.
And I was going to ask, because you mentioned this before, and I actually didn't clarify with anyone previously. So are these Subrace changes? I assume that they were being implemented in the underlying C code, but is this all being implemented in Muddle? Do you know, or?
It's basically what we're doing these days. And remember, I'm not a coder, but my impression is that Dine, who is by far, in my opinion, the most important person on MUME, doesn't get a lot of credit for it, but he does a lot of stuff in the background. He's not often that visible. He doesn't interact that much with directly with players. He doesn't really do a lot of stuff with player-facing things, like the Subrace features. But when we want to do something that requires, we can't do that because there's no support, there's no commands for it. We can't do this with rooms or with objects or with mobs. It's almost always him in the background setting it up so it's possible to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just the other a couple weeks ago, the game went down because there was a disk full error or something, and it was basically like, "When's Dane? We need Dane." Come save us.
But it's when you see this, you have seen a lot of these minor updates, reboots. There's never any news post, and there's never an explanation. It just says minor update. That's Dine adding something in the background, something we need for future changes mostly. So it's not going to be something you see now, but maybe we needed something new to make the troll push battery ramps around. Yeah, and these are often connections from C to model. We do almost everything in model these days, but to be able to do it in model, there need to be whatever you call it between C and model. So a lot of stuff is still C, but almost everything new is model.
Yeah, I think that echoes what Imago was saying earlier.
I hope so.
The report and everything.
And for the record, when he said that he soloed the Scarfell Beast in 10 minutes with some Charmes, when I said it would take, that's not true.
That was fake news? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he probably counted 10 minutes from when he started killing the beast, when he had found the lair and killed all the snakes and everything. It was just a beast left. Then about 10, lightning was up already, so you could call lightning on it. Yeah, from that point, it was maybe 10 minutes. In total, it's probably more like 4 hours.
Imago over here spreading rumors about how quickly you can do.
I mean, you can invite him back again. Ask him about it.
You can dispute your accusation. Great.
I'm just setting the facts straight.
I would say though. For my hot take, though, it would probably just be something pretty simple along the lines of it would still be on Darky side, which is that there's been some complaints or some observations recently that PvEing on Darky, so basically like if you're going to do super mobs or anything like that, it's very difficult the way things are currently set up because, most of the players are on Puke side, so on the Darky side, not only do you have fewer players to work with, you also have weaker characters. So it's a lot more difficult to do super mobs or just interact with the game the way you would on Puke. So some additional maybe super mobs which are Darky only, kind of like how Guardian is for Pukes. You can only get the loot for Pukes. More super mobs like that, or maybe some quality of life buffs on the Darky side, so that they can play the game not for just PK only, might be pretty helpful.
Yeah, so this is my opinion. And it's not neutral.
Mm-hmm.
This is my biased opinion from my gaming experience, from
Mm-hmm.
how I feel. I think that the dark side needs only one thing to thrive, and that is a target-rich environment.
Gotcha. So
and I'm not against darkest super mobbing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, if I play a troll or an orc, I don't never really play the BM. I do it for the PK. If I want to, if I want to go smobbing and stuff like that, I play a puke.
So your philosophy basically is just try to get as many pukes on as possible, and that will naturally increase the number of darkies, basically, and make their sessions more fun.
Yeah, if you're PK interested, and if you're not, you're probably not playing an orc anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm not saying that no, they shouldn't be allowed to kill smobs. It's just not an issue for me.
Gotcha.
It's not something I would push for,
mm-hmm.
but it's not something I would stand in the way for either. I'm pretty neutral on it, but I would say that they need targets, they need pukes playing, they need pukes in various places on the map that they can chase around and kill.
Vulnerable
and butcher.
Pukes. And butcher. All right.
That's my opinion, but like I said, I'm fine either way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not something I would push for. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, fair enough. Anyway, with that, I think we'll be wrapping up here pretty soon. But just wanted to say thank you so much, Rogon, for coming on the podcast this week. We learn a ton from every single one of the guests that we have on, and so really appreciate you taking the time out and coming on to chat with us. Really appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
You never asked about an old stories.
So we
maybe
did
some other time.
We'll exactly. We can do that again. Tried to get into that with some of the discussion earlier about your orc. The conversation was just too hot the whole time. But I mean, if you want to tell a story right now, you can go for it.
I don't have anything in mind. I just remembered you talked about it.
Gotcha. Well, we're
going to bring it up.
We like to follow the conversation wherever it goes on here, but next time for sure we'll ask some stories. But again, thank you so much for coming on, Nick, as well. Thanks for coming on, Mike. When you're listening to this later, thanks for joining in, and I hope everyone really enjoyed the podcast. We don't have Nick here we don't have Mike here to. We do have Nick here. We don't have Mike here to give us the sign out, but we'll just say, MUME Talk, episode 11, featuring Rogon, signing off. Thanks, guys.